It's going down. Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rakakwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. And welcome to another series of It's Going Down, being brought to you by the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. U.S. military holds Q Course guerrilla warfare exercise in North Carolina against patriotic freedom fighters. Now, for years, we've been saying this. We've been saying that the U.S. government was going to start using their military to conduct multiple military drills and guerrilla warfare exercises in these different cities. Okay, now for those who don't know, the word guerrilla here means irregular, and they consider patriarchs or people who are patriotic or people who were former military personnel who are fighting for so-called freedom here in America. They consider these kind of people as irregular. Okay, and typically guerrilla warfare usually takes place in urban areas, modern or urban areas, or in areas such as suburban cities, etc., etc. So in places where there's lots of buildings and lots of businesses and malls and things like that going on, those areas will be considered urban. Now, suburban or suburban will be areas that would be considered as neighborhoods that consist of lots of houses, trailers. There might be a store here and there. All these areas will be considered areas in which the U.S. military is holding drills. They're conducting these exercises to prepare their minds to encounter people who would call themselves patriarchs or patriotic freedom fighters, or they would typically train to prepare themselves to fight against former military personnel, people who would be considered a traitor to the U.S. military, or people who once trained in the U.S. military and they know some things. They know about what the U.S. government is intending to do. They know about the agenda of the Illuminati. They know what the so-called elites are planning or plotting. You know, these kind of men pose a danger to the new world order of the so-called elites. Okay, they pose a threat to the new world order of the so-called elites because these kind of people can be whistleblowers. You know, they might know how to encounter different weaponry or artillery that the military was trained to use, etc., etc. You know, typically some of these, there's men who are trained to learn how to make certain kinds of bombs from chemicals that you can buy from the store. So these guys will pose a threat to not only U.S. national security but also the U.S. military. And again, these patriotic freedom fighters, a lot of them are former U.S. military personnel who were trained in the ways of combat. So these men will pose the biggest threat compared to your average six-pack Joe who just, he drinks beer, he likes to watch sports and hang out with his family. Somebody who's not really in the know like that. So it says, how the annual Robin Sage Special Forces Guerrilla Warfare Training Session feels different in the age of lockdowns, quarantines. I'm not going to say the full word there because of YouTube algorithms, and compulsive compulsory juices. While the U.S. government has labeled far-right extremists, the number of domestic terrorist threats, as popular television shows, celebrities, and video games echo such sentiments, it is no wonder conservatives are feeling anxious hearing stories of military drills conducted against simulated rebel freedom fighters on U.S. soil. Okay. The annual Robin Sage Special Forces training exercise had put American conservatism on edge as trust in law enforcement and government agencies hit record lows among the country's Republican voters. And really, this is all systematically being done by design. They're doing this to put law enforcement and police officers out of business because the Illuminati, they want the crime rate to go up here in America. Why? So they can get a reaction from the people. Now remember what they said on the back of their dollar bill, order ab chaos. When you translate that to the English, it's order out of chaos. You see, they create the chaos, they get a reaction from the people, and they come up with their solution. So it's not the Republican voters is not to blame for record low law enforcement and government agencies. Really, it's the Illuminati. Okay? After numerous high-profile incidents of federal and state misconduct in the 2020 election, as well as the continued nationwide January 6 manhunt of conservatives, any remaining trust in the federal government is fleeting fast among the country's mega constituency. Robin Sage is a 2-week special force exercise where military participants are dropped into realistic guerrilla warfare situations on U.S. soil, where resistance fighters, militias, and civilian combatants are both trained and fought. To bring level to realism to the exercise, civilian volunteers throughout the state of North Korea participate as role players in the military exercise. So they're getting ready for civil war here. And a matter of fact, civil war is not far-fetched. You know why? Because in the book of Second Esdras, civil war is actually prophesied. Matter of fact, let's get it. Okay, Second Esdras, chapter 15, verse 15. It says, "For the sword in their..." Well, Second Esdras, chapter 15, verse 14 says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein." Verse 15, "For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Now, the modern day sword, on average, is what? These guns, whether they be snipers, AKs, Glocks, Desert Eagles, whether they be Tech 9s, whether they be Uzis, whether they be any kind of submachine gun, light machine guns, whether if they be any kind of rifles like hunting rifles. You know, these civil wars are going to be fought with guns. Okay, now the U.S. military, they're not going to be the only beings in this country with guns when civil war breaks loose in America. U.S. civilians are going to have guns as well. And the reason why these devils are continuously passing laws and legislations which are being conducted and sent out by the U.S. Congress is because they want to get rid of people guns nationwide. Why? Because the so-called elites, they know about prophecy. They know about the prophecies written in Second Esdras, and they know that these civil wars are going to be fought with guns. So they're trying to upset prophecies by passing many different gun laws or making it harder for people to carry guns on them or have any kind of automatics. You see, they're targeting weapons that will have the most catastrophic effects against the U.S. military. Of course, the U.S. military forbid they use bombs, on their own people. But at this point, the so-called elites are getting really desperate with their new world order, so it will probably be a light thing for them to drop a couple of bombs on some of these neighborhoods here in the United States, right? Despite the fact that the Posse Comitatus Act, which was passed in the 18th century, forbid the U.S. government from using their own military against their own civilians. But it's getting to a point to where these gun laws is going to start leading these different UN troops from going to door forcibly confiscating guns. And when that happens, there's going to be shootouts because people are, especially these proud, Edomites here in America, they're not going to just hand over their guns. Okay, they're not going out without a fight. So if you just bust into their house because of their refusal to turn their guns in, well, what's going to happen? There's going to be shootouts. And it's going to be reported on YouTube. It's going to be reported in the alternative media. It's going to be reported in the news. And what's going to happen? That's going to put everybody else here in America on alert. That's going to put these different patriarchs and former military personnel that have left the U.S. military, that used to be a part of the U.S. military, but they're not anymore. They're going to be on alert. And when that happens, people is going to start expecting U.S. military and UN, the UN military, to go from door to door confiscating people guns. So when people are on high alert like that, people's going to start sniping out different military personnel. And what's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to these U.S. military going for desperate measures, right? Because desperate measures call for desperate times. So what's going to happen? They're going to start using snipers. They're going to start using hunting rifles. They're going to start bringing out Gatling guns and assault rifles, blazing up people's houses. So it's gonna turn into a bloody mess here in America. And this is what 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 15 is talking about, down to 16. Okay? The one people that shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. Of course, formally, this is talking about race wars. But this is also talking about civil wars. Okay, now during the time of Abraham Lincoln, there was a civil war here in America. And there was a civil war between who? Between the Confederate and between the U.S. militia. Okay? And the reason why that was because of what? Well, it really has little to do with Abraham. Well, actually, it has a lot to do with Abraham. Okay, and messing with the bankers' money and so forth, and blase, and these civil wars didn't really happen because of the Southerners who were the Confederate. They wanted to keep the Israelites, which are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians, in hardcore bondage. But Abraham didn't send out his militia because he was defending slaves, okay? Really, that was just something totally different. This man was spending up all the money in the so-called elite banks. And, the elite bankers down in Britain, they didn't like that shit. So, yeah, they basically caused the Civil War to break out here in the United States. And ultimately, their goal was to have Abraham Lincoln assassinated. But again, that's something for another time. That's another topic for another time. The point is that if there was a civil war here in America before in the past, of course there's going to be another civil war. Again. Now I'm going to skip down to verse 16 here. Okay. It says, for there shall be, I'm going to just click on it. It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. The word sedition, when you look it up, means a rebellion or an uprise against a government. People is already on edge because Mr. Babbler's speech Biden got put in office. You know, that a crackhead. But people's even more on edge because more of these gun laws are going out, more militias are being formed. You know, these military personnel are doing drills. And you know what? It's not the first time the U.S. military has trained on the soils of America to combat against to combat against what they call dissidents. Okay. They've been training to kill Israelites, so-called Negro, Latino, Native Indians, but now they're training to combat against patriarchs, armed former military personnel who are no longer a part of the military. Okay, there's all kind of rebel groups that are growing here on the soils of America, and freedom fighters is just one of them. Okay, what about Antifa? You know, you got Antifa, you got the Confederate, you got different militias. So these people, they're getting ready to fight against the U.S. government and their military, in which let them, because they'll be fulfilling prophecy. You know, it's about to be a bloodbath over here on the soils of America, and a lot of people is not mentally prepared, you know, to see what's about to happen. A lot of so-called loved ones are going to pass away. You know, children might even get caught up in the crossfire. Babies might get caught up in the crossfire. Old people might get caught up in the crossfire. Adults, teenagers might get caught up in the crossfire. And that's why, that's why there's going to be so many dead bodies over here on the streets of America. It's going to be dead bodies from militias, from rebel groups, from U.S., from men who are part of the U.S. military, from UN troops. You know, like brothers have said before in the past, dead bodies is going to literally become the new sidewalk, the new streets. It's going to reek of death out here. And civil war is just one of the many prophecies that's going to happen over here on the soils of America. Okay? People still got to worry about monstrous apparitions, newly created beasts, zombie apocalypse, viruses that will bug people that F out. Viruses that peel off your skin and cause worms to come out your body. You know, just that's why it tells you. I'm gonna come back to this, but Joel 2 verse 2. Okay, Joel chapter 2 verse 2. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There have not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So the times that's coming to America is going to be unlike any time that has ever been on this planet. And it's going to get so bad out here that the Lord is going to have to send his archangel Michael to protect and defend his elect men, because it's going to get that terrible out here. And if you're not of the elect, you're not going to be delivered. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speak like I'm of the elect, because I'm not of the elect. You know, Lord's will, the Lord has me here to help to wake up his elect men. I mean, I hope to be of the elect. I don't know. I don't know if I'm of the elect or not. I hope to be. But what's coming to America, you're definitely going to hope to be of the elect. As it is written, we are prisoners of hope. And like it tells you in the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, and I believe the 24th verse, we are saved through hope. Well, no. Salakia, I misphrased that. Like it tells you in Romans 8 verse 24, hope that is seen is not hope. But if we hope for which we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. Daniel chapter 12 verse 1, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble. What kind of trouble? Jacob's trouble. Because everything that the Lord is about to bring to this country, he's really doing it to target our people, because the Lord is angry with our people because of their rebellion and their refusal to repent from their iniquities. So there's going to be a time of trouble, Jacob's trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And because of that, and at that time, thy people shall be delivered. Who? The elect. The elect of the nation of Israel. Everyone that shall be found written in the book. The book of what? The book of the dead? No, the book of life. Okay? So it's going to get terrible out here, man. There's going to be famines. People's going to be starving out here. People's going to be getting kidnapped, cannibalized, raped, murdered. There's going to be, treachery going on. Your best friends is going to turn against you. You people who you thought were your best friends is going to turn on you. Come on, bro. I thought you were my bro, man. You mean telling me you can't spare any food for me to feed my family? Hey, look. You're not the only one with a family on this planet. And you know what's going to happen? Well, fuck you, bro. He's going to pull out a Glock and put a couple of slugs in you. So there's going to be all kind of treachery going on. Guys who you thought were your homeboys, your ninjas, they going to turn on you. They going to put you to death, and then they going to take your food so they can go feed their family. It's just, and Second Esdras goes all into this. Okay? We can confirm that the Holy Scriptures is a living book based on the prophecies that are written therein. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why is he? You must ask yourself, what's going to happen here that's going to make it so bad to where people's not going to want to live in their own city? What's going to happen that's going to make it so terrifying for you to live in your own city? Well, zombie apocalypse is one of them. Just look at Resident Evil 2. Okay, what is that about? Some virus outbreak that don't turn people into zombies, and people just went around eating each other, and it got that Raccoon City became such a terrifying place to live at that people didn't want to live there no more. So their main focus was what? Leaving the city. And like how they show you in some of these zombie movies, the first one that people always run to in a zombie apocalypse is what? They run to FEMA. They run to martial law for help. But people don't seem to notice that. And you know what's going to happen when they put you in a FEMA camp. You're going to be re-educated for the newer order. They're gonna attempt to re-educate you, and then they're gonna put a CHIP in you, which is the mark of the you know what. And then they're gonna release you back into society where it's safe at, where you're gonna be in a controlled environment. See, this is where it's all leading up to. It's leading up to the NWO, man. This is what the so-called elites want. But like it tells you in the book of Job, when he's about to fill his belly, the Lord shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him. The Lord's going to send his son back to put his foot in his devil's ass. So a man is not going to be able to go into another city. Why? Because martial law is going to be blocking off exits and roads into different cities. Okay, they're going to see a city is too dangerous for people to go into or to leave, and they're going to block off roads. They're gonna set up spike strips so you can just try to drive your vehicle, you know, forcibly drive your vehicle into another city. They're gonna have barricades set up. They're gonna have tanks and MRAPs set up, just like what they show you in these movies. For because of their pride, whose pride? The people's pride in the city. The cities, so because of the people's pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Men is going to be afraid. Why? Well, you might wake up one day and you might look out your window and you might see a couple of military men go into your neighbor's house, and the next thing you hear is a couple of gunshots, followed by a woman screaming, and then right before you know it, there's just complete silence. And then you see them same military man walking out of that house and going. They're just going from house to house doing some cleansing, the purge. So what? People's gonna be fleeing out of their houses, fleeing into wilderness. It's gonna become survival of the fittest out here, how they show you in that movie, The Road. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. Now, when it says destroy their houses with the sword, we know what that's talking about. They're gonna be kicking in doors with a strap on them, a gun on them, and they're gonna be looking for food, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Because of the lack of bread, right? When you lack food and you got a family, you go for desperate measures. And while all this is going on, there's going to be militias. People's going to be forming groups. Preppers is going to be losing their minds. It's just going to be an all-out war, man. It's going to be survival of the fittest. But the only ones that's going to make it through all this is the elect, the Lord's elect, the men, along with their families, of whom the Lord have chosen to be beamed up on chariots from the coming catastrophe. And to put the icing on the cake, there's going to be a nuclear war during World War III. And this country is going to be the main target of the nuclear war, being hit with 200 million missiles. Boy, that man, nuclear missiles, man, like the day of the Lord is going to be a terrifying day. But with that, I'm going to say, Shalom is on to the next one.